Hello, everyone. Welcome back. This is day 23 of our 31 days parenting challenge. Are you here? Welcome back to the challenge. If you are here, I'm happy to have you. I'm happy to see you. Okay, so today we're talking about bullying. But before we go on, I want to appeal that you please subscribe to my channel. All right, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Just click on the subscription button, go straight to the notification bell, hit it, and you get notification from me. All right, whenever I post a new video, even videos from this challenge. All right, so I also have a channel. I also have pages on Instagram and Facebook. Please add a drip of love. Just follow me wherever you find me. All right, so we're talking about bullying today. We're talking about bullying today. Is your child being bullied? That's the question. Is your child being bullied? Are there things, in fact, are there things that suggest bullying? Because a lot of times I feel like we are not very proactive as parents. Bullying is something that reoccurs, right? Bullying is something that reoccurs. It's not bullying if it doesn't reoccur. All right. Now, don't get me wrong. It can happen once, yes, but most times bullying reoccurs. Okay, so you must know if your child is a victim of bullying. Otherwise, by the time it escalates, it turns into something else altogether. Now, do you know? Do you know if they're being picked on? Do you know if they are being teased? There are so many other things we're going to talk about as we go on in this challenge. Okay, we're going to talk about signs of bullying and the effect and everything. But do you know that 1 out of every 5 children, now children is just a general term, right? 1 out of every 5 children, 1 out of every 5 teenagers are victims of bullying. Now, there was a study was carried out in a Nigerian school, right? And it was discovered out of 680 students, about 680 students that were interviewed, they discovered that about 51.9%, which is above half of the mark, right? 51.9% have experienced bullying. So it means that from this study now, we can say 1 out of every 2 children. So it is a very serious thing. It is a very serious thing. Bullying has a long-term effect on our children. In fact, the effects are things that experiences that we do not even want to have as adults. Imagine how it feels when someone from a higher social class intimidates someone from a lower social. I don't know if you've had that experience before. But if you have, or if you can remember having an experience of bullying when you were growing up, you can share it in the comment section so we can talk about it. Because most of the time, bullying is not a good experience to have. It has effects on the child's mental health, their overall well-being. It can cause long-term harm, trauma, depression, and the rest of it. Now, how many of us remember the story of Gabriel? There is one Gabriel, an 8-year-old, that was found dead in his room, right? Now, 2 days after he was found dead, I think this happened about a year ago. 2 days after he was found dead in his room, a videotape came, right? A video tape was seen, right? They showed his parents a videotape of how he was bullied in school, right? How about 2, 3 boys beat him up, slapped him, did all sorts of things to him, and he started feeling pain, right? The school reported that they took him to the sick bay and he was okay and everything, but they did not report to their parents. They did not inform the parents of that boy. And that boy, nobody knew what he was going through. In fact, his parents were literally crying, like if they had known, they would have found a way to help him. You see the importance of getting to know our children and at least trying to make sure that we build on this knowing them every day. Those 2 days would have meant a lot for his parents if only they had known. They would have been able to stop him. He literally committed suicide. Okay, so now we also know a popular story of Sylvester in one of our private schools in Nigeria, of how the boy was beaten, like beaten to stupor, right? A 12-year-old boy was beaten. And the funny thing is that there was a queue. He left a queue telling his sister, oh, they said this and they said that about me. In fact, from the story, one of the things that prompted me in that story is they told everyone around him, his friends, not to associate with him again, not to play with him again. And then one day they came, turned off the light, and started beating him up. After a week or a few days later, he died. There's another story now. This one is a very recent one that happened on the 5th of May. A 10-year-old was bullied because, in fact, the bully, his parents says they've been bullying him. So it means that he has probably been reporting it, but they didn't really do something about it. Now, this 10-year-old boy took his life, like he killed himself in his room. These are not these are real life stories. These are real stories. So this is why bullying is not something to just take lightly. Okay. Now, there's a difference between bullying and conflict. Let's not confuse it. Conflict is more like a mutual disagreement over a need, over a want, over a value. But bullying is more like someone overpowering the other. In bullying, there's always a power imbalance. In bullying, there's always a power imbalance. Bullying is unidirectional. One person is overpowering the next person, whether physically, verbally, or otherwise. Then in conflict, it's just a disagreement they are engaged in. All right, the interaction is mostly balanced, it's mostly bi-directional, right? So we must know the difference so that when our children come to us with something, we should not just relax about it. At least investigate further, ask more questions. That way you'll be able to tell exactly what is going on with your child. Okay, bullying is repetitive. Imagine someone, for example, there are different forms of bullying, right? So let's say your child is verbally abused, like this boy that died or that killed himself on the 10th of May. That was always verbally abused. He has issues with his teeth. They kept teasing him over that. They kept teasing him over his glasses. They beat him up one day on a bus, right? Beat him up, broke his glasses. So imagine that kind of experience. And they keep doing it over and over again. So imagine what happens when he gets to see those people. Imagine how he feels when he sees them. So the fear, the tension, the anxiety, the trauma, everything is wrong with it. So we have to be very sensitive. Bullying can take various forms. Physical bullying can take the form of hitting, kicking, blowing, whatever it is that has to do with that comes physically, right? Physical bullying can also come in form of damaging belongings. Yes, damaging belongings. Now you wonder why are children so wicked to their fellow children? Why are our minds work differently, right? Our minds work differently, and these things come in various forms. I think we're going to talk more about it tomorrow. These things work in various forms. So yes, we cannot blame the person that is bullied. We cannot blame. We will blame the person that is the bully, right? But there is also a foundation to it. It also begins somewhere. The fact that a child will hit another child and want to inflict pain, because that is what bullying is. Bullying is intentionally trying to harm someone, intentionally trying to hurt someone, intentionally trying to inflict pain on someone else. And that is what happens in our schools. That is what happens in our schools. I watched a video of senior students beating up a younger student. Everyone, about 5 of them, came up with their belts, hitting and flogging. I've been wondering, like, these people, do they have emotions? Do they have feelings? In fact, recently, I don't know how many of you follow the story of a young girl that was slapping her I don't know if it's a classmate, slapping her over an issue they had. She was slapping her so many times, and the girl just stood still. The bullied girl just stood still. She didn't do anything. She couldn't do anything. That is why we're talking about it today. Because whether your child is the bully or the bullied, it is wrong. There's a problem with it. There's a problem with it. There is verbal bullying, name calling, insults, teasing, intimidation, threats. There is social bullying, spreading rumors about someone. Okay, one of that story, the Sylvester story, has something to do with social bullying. They asked the boy to admit that he had seen his sister's nakedness and he refused. And then they forced him to say it, and then he started spreading the news everywhere in school. So imagine the shame, the embarrassment that goes with it. The boy must have felt so embarrassed that people will go around saying that about him. Okay, so social bullying can come in form of excluding someone from a group. Excluding someone from a group, maybe going and telling their friends or their peers, please, he's not going to be a part of this again. She's not going to be a part of this again. And when children begin to feel isolated, it does a lot with their mind. It does so much. So you need to know, is your child feeling isolated? Because if your child is a part of a group in their class or has been a part of a group and they suddenly have a disagreement and then they start excluding them, it is a form of social bullying which can tamper with a child's mind. Okay, cyberbullying. Okay, I won't dwell much on it, but we already know trolls and everything. And funny enough, our teenagers are online. That is the wrong thing here. That our teenagers are online and they can be cyberbullied, and it will still result in the same effects: mental health, depression, trauma. It will still result in the same effect. So who are these children who are at risk of being bullied, so that you can tell if your child is fit into any of this category, right? Children that are extremely sensitive, extremely emotionally sensitive, overly eager. There are some children that have intense reaction to events. In fact, even a lot of adults, if you understand this thing, you know that you will see it in so many adults. They've actually or probably carried it on from their childhood. People that are so sensitive over little things, you might just say, those overthinkers, you might just say something that is not even related or that is not even directed at them, and they might pick offense, they might get so angry. Those are the kind of children that could be at risk of bullying. All right, children that personalize everything, that feel so negative. Everything they're thinking about is negative over every situation. People that struggle to cope with criticisms, with conflicts, right? They could be at risk. And funny enough, we can notice these things in our children very early. All right, if you notice that your child is overly sensitive, when you talk to them about something, they overreact or they think so deep about it, you need to find a way to help them. All right, it's possible, yes, because it is a temperament trait, a personality trait of some children that they come with. It's natural to some children, but you can help them build the confidence that they need. You can help them understand basic things. You can help them come out of it. All right, younger children could be at risk of being bullied, and in this case, they may not be able to help themselves. Like in the case of that Sylvester, he was bullied by bigger children, so he didn't have the power and the strength to overpower them. So some of these things are inevitable. That is why we need to teach our children some basic things about bullying. Okay, now children can be bullied for their physical weights, right? Height, size, dressing. So I heard a story of a girl that stopped eating. Like her parents were bothered. Why are you not eating? She stopped eating because her friends were laughing at her because she was on the big side. She was plumpy, right? They were laughing at her and she started reducing her food. Literally, she wasn't eating. She wasn't eating. So these are things that can happen. All right? These are things that can happen. This is so very true. I was a very sensitive child. Hence, I suffered inferiority complex and forced bullying at some point and faced bullying at some point in secondary school. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much. These are things that we face. So we have to be sensitive to know if our children are facing it. Younger children that have issues that are physically different. They are not issues actually, but other children pick on it and make it an issue, right? Children that have speech impediments, like people that stutter, people that just are just different. Children that are awkward, those children that act awkward, like the nerds, like the geeks, like people that are just different, the introverts that don't know how to fit into social settings, those that are just clumsy, children with special needs that most of the time is not even their fault and they pick on them. So know where your child falls in so that you will see the urgency to help your child, right? Special needs children with ADHD, autism, and all that. Now, the next set of children that could be at risk are children from dysfunctional homes. Children from dysfunctional homes where we have a lot of abuse, whatever form of abuse, physical abuse, verbal abuse. Some of us just talk anyhow to our children, like whatever it is that comes to our head, we say to them, shout at them. Children that have distress at home, stress at home. And the funny thing is that most of these children from dysfunctional homes, they find it difficult, they isolate themselves because of the stress they feel, because they feel lack of parental support, right? So they find it difficult to speak to their parents. So they are more risk because whatever happens, nobody may know because they just keep it to themselves. They just absorb it. They just accumulate it. They just accumulate it. So we have to be careful. If we have issues in our marriages, protect your children from it. Because issues in the marriage, like divorce and separation and the rest of them, are forms of a dysfunctional family. So when there are issues like that, protect your children from it. And make sure that you work to help them, protect them from it. Do not let it affect them. Otherwise, it becomes a very major issue. It becomes a very major issue. If you look at some children, you see some behavioral signs like withdrawal, anxiety, aggression, isolation. These are some of the reasons. These are some of the effects. They are some of the signs. In some children, you observe extreme mood swings, like mood swings that are not normal. You just observe sadness. They are not happy. Some children are always frustrated, low self-esteem. Low self-esteem. Now, a lot of children are already in that state of depression. Now, apart from the physical signs, you may not see the bruises and the cuts on their body, right? But in the case of that Sylvester now, they had to pick him up from school because he was feeling pain. In fact, I was trying to rewatch the video again, and I discovered a lot of things that I did not even hear the first time. He had swells all over his body. His lungs got swollen and damaged. Why? Because from his story, the boys were stepping on him, flogging him with belt, hitting him. Lots of things are going on in our school. So we have to be sensitive. Some of our children might get into depression, persistent sadness, hopelessness. That is the point where those boys got to and decided to take their life. Imagine a 10-year-old and 8-year-old thinking about taking his life. But it happened. So do not be too careful. We cannot be too careful when it comes to this. We cannot overlook it. We cannot be too relaxed about it. It is an urgent thing. It is something that we have to act on urgently. All right? Because depression might lead to, in severe cases, it might lead to trauma. Your child may start having post-traumatic stress disorder, where they start having flashbacks, nightmares, fear over little things. We have to be sensitive. This is why we need to teach our children. If you've noticed low self-esteem, lack of confidence in your child, you need to teach your children how to be assertive, Teach them how to be assertive. Assertiveness is not aggressiveness. There are two different ends. Assertiveness and aggressiveness are different. Yes, it's not being aggressive. Assertiveness is the ability to express themselves confidently, to stand up for their rights, to speak up whenever, whether verbally, let people hear exactly what they are thinking and what they feel about it. Because a lot of bullies can be stopped at that point of assertiveness. Yes, when they see that They cannot. You have already set your boundaries. You have reinforced your boundaries. Yes, that is why they must learn to articulate their boundaries, right? When they articulate their boundaries, they will reinforce their boundaries so that whenever those people come back, they know that this is a no-go area. This person cannot be tampered with. This person is not a target. She cannot be a target. He cannot be a target. So you need to help them understand that. Let them learn assertiveness. Now, let them also learn that being assertive is different from being foolish, so that they will know that they can report. Reporting or a situation is not a weakness. Let us end that mentality that when you go to report, they will laugh at you. Hey, every time you're running to report. That is how we felt, some of us, when we were growing up. So instead of going to report, we form big boys and big girls, and we keep it to ourselves. So let them understand that they should report. In fact, reporting is something that should be encouraged, right? Should be encouraged. It is not a sign of weakness, because if some persons had reported, it would have been resolved. They would have been helped. So assertiveness is one solution to combating this bullying. Thank you so much, everyone. I wish we had more time, but this is going to be a major teaching in one of my next sessions after this challenge. I hope we get to talk about it deeply and maybe share our lessons, contribute on it, okay? Because it is something that we must act on. Is your child being bullied? Do you know if they are victims of bullying? Do you know if they are victims of bullying? What are you doing about it? All right, need to go ask questions. Find out if there are any traces that suggest any form of bullying and act on it quickly. Thank you so much, parents. Thank you, everyone, for joining me. I can see your comments. Thank you so much. I hope to see you again tomorrow. Bye, everyone.